My name is Daniel. This is my channel Start Pages. Today I'm going to be reviewing Red Dragon by Thomas Harris, which is the first book in the Hannibal Lecter series. And this book is about Will Graham, who is a retired FBI thing. So I know he way before this book took place, he was a forensics something. He wasn't a forensic scientist, he was something else, forensic something. And then he stopped doing that and became a consultant for the FBI. And then he caught Hannibal Lecter. And then after he caught Hannibal Lecter, the FBI called him back to help them catch Red Dragon, who is a new serial killer who is killing families. And they need Will Graham to come and help. So that's what this is about. Okay. I rated this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. And I just want to say that this book is this book is old. So it does have like 4 or 5 lines that are offensive or can be considered offensive, so let's put that out there. Faults I had with this book was, one, it wasn't very organized. I didn't like the way it was organized, so sometimes it would be hard to tell which character is talking, because we would have like a paragraph where character A is doing something, and in that same paragraph character B says a line and it doesn't say character B's name said. So I don't know who said anything, and it's like the first thing you learn in English class when you're doing narrative writing, that every time you have a new line, it's supposed to go into another line, but that doesn't happen a lot. That barely happens in the book. So like Will Graham will be doing something and there's a whole paragraph describing what Will is doing, and then Crawford, this one agent, would say something to Will, but that line would be in the same paragraph as when it was describing what Will was doing. So I thought it's like Will said something, but I don't find out until like 6 lines later when Harris writes Will said, Will said, then I knew that, oh, it was Crawford. So I went back and I checked and I realized that it was Crawford who said something, and that happens quite a lot, so it's really annoying. And another thing that he does is he switches point of views like quite often and out of nowhere. So like in the middle of a paragraph I would have 5 pages of Will's point of view, what Will is doing, and then in one line it switches to Crawford, but I wouldn't know because Will just entered a room with Crawford and they're doing the same things. I didn't realize that it switched to Crawford's point of view until like 4 pages later, where it says Crawford does this, because it's written in the third person, so it says Crawford does this, and I'm like, oh, hold on, I have to switch. In my mind I was thinking that Will was doing this, but now I realized it's actually Crawford doing this. That was another thing that I didn't like. The third thing is that we know who the killer is very early on, because we get his point of view and we know his name, we know where he works, we see him performing in the acts, and we see what he does after. And it's both a positive and a negative thing for me, in my opinion. The first thing is negative. I didn't like that I knew like so much more than the other characters, because it just added to my frustration by like a lot, because Will and FBI people will be working out something and I know how close they are, or how far they are, or what's going to happen next, but they won't listen to me when I tell them that this is what's going to happen, because it's a book that was written years ago, so obviously they're not going to anyways, it's just increased my frustration because I knew so much and they knew nothing, and I didn't like it. But it added another layer to the character. Should I say the character? I mean, you know who it is. I'm going to say his name, Dollar Hyde. Is that how you pronounce it? That's how I'm going to pronounce it, because this is my review, and that's like the only way you can pronounce it. Dollar Hyde. I'm just going to open up page and see it here. Dollar Hyde. You can't see that. I'm so sorry. Dollar Hyde. That's the only way to pronounce it. It added another layer to Dollar Hyde that I think would be pretty hard to add if we didn't get his point of view. It added some pretty exciting scenes that you wouldn't see from that point of view or from that lens if we didn't have that point of view. So I guess what I'm saying is I liked it, but I didn't like. I just said that. I only like parts of it. So like parts that I didn't like, I don't think he should have given us so much information so quick, because it's like in the first like 6, I think it's like the first, between chapter 1 and chapter 6, I already knew who the killer was. So maybe not so early on, and maybe not so much details like from the get-go. What else I really loved was seeing the process and the way the FBI and Will went about like processing evidence and the process that they had to go through. And that was very interesting. Maybe it will be interesting for everybody. It was not a big part, but it wasn't a small part, so it was there and it was very interesting. I also found Will's point of view, not like his point of view, like in specific scenes where he goes to the crime scene or he's handling evidence and he's like building up the crime scene and working out what Dollarhide does while he's there and when he's committing the act. That was very interesting, and it was not very similar, it was slightly similar to how my brain works, so I like seeing it on paper. And the characters themselves were very interesting. You get to see Will with his family before Crawford calls him back to come and help them solve the crime scene, help them solve the crime and catch the killer. You also get to see the relationship with his family while it's going on and how that impacts his family. And I like the relationship between Will and Molly, so that's one thing. All the characters were pretty interesting in their own way, even though we didn't get a lot about them other than Will and some notes about Hannibal Lecter, and we knew a lot about Dollarhide. That was like a whole chunk of the book where we got like backstory. And I love the way the backstory was written, because it is something that, you know, it's there, that usually it's there for you to say, okay, this is a character that you could sympathize with. But the way it was written, there's a part of the book where we get Dollarhide's life from he was younger up until when he decided to start committing acts of murder, where we see how he got to that point, and it's like saying we see how he got to that point, and when it's the way how it's written, you know that it's like in another time and place you would say, okay, this is a character that I could sympathize with. But the way Thomas Harris wrote it, you know, he does not want you to sympathize with Dollarhide, because he has always been as dark and as he always had the capability to become who he is now. So you don't sympathize with him, but there is the possibility that people could sympathize with him. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know what I'm saying, I am so sorry, but I know what I'm saying. So English is difficult. Okay, the writing style of the book, it wasn't entirely simple. Like, it wasn't purely a simple piece of narrative fiction, but it wasn't flowery or an entity of its own. You know, like how you have books where you have the story that you already know, but then you can recognize the writing style as something more than just an entity to deliver the story. So it's like a whole different thing. So you have the book and you have the writing style. It wasn't that, but it was still interesting, and it fit with the book and the setting and the tone of the story. It sets a tone on its own. So like, even if something wasn't going on, you always knew like this is the lens you're supposed to have on while you're reading the scene. Oh, also, I did not like the ending at all. I didn't like it, but I understand why it had to happen. It made sense. It was very realistic, but I did not like it because of reasons that if I say, they will be spoilers. So I'm not going to say it. So read the book. And if you like the ending, or if you don't like the ending, let me know if you want to in the comments or on my social medias platform thingies. That's all I have to say. All the relevant links, so links to my Twitter, Instagram, blog, my business email, my Tumblr, and links to like ways you can help different, all the shit that's going on in the world right now, will be in the description regarding liking, commenting, and subscribing. Do what you want. Bye.